We're going to start by looking at the 0 note away perfect first. This one in the perfect first representing the relative position in the scale, the 0 representing the distance from the root note within the scale. And you might ask, well, how in the world can you have a 0 note away? Wouldn't that just mean you're on the same note? And it could be, because I could play that twice, right? So it's in the same place. That's where the first one would be. Now we could, if I go somewhere else, say that we're traveling a distance of 12, because that's going to be the number of notes to get to another octave if you were on a piano. But remember, we're not thinking of it in terms of a linear progression that goes out into infinity, but rather thinking of the notes as though they're in a circle from a pitch perspective. So if, for example, I took this string from fret number 1 to fret number 12, twisted it into a circle, then we'd have a circle with 12 steps, kind of like a clock. And whether I go 12 steps counterclockwise or clockwise around the clock, I will end up in the same spot. So that means that if I'm going above this note, as we will be doing here, then usually I have to take the inverse distance to go above it. But obviously the inverse of 12 is going to be 12 in this case, because there's only 12 notes in the musical alphabet. So that makes it a little bit more easy. So also note that the fault line is between, this is the fault line, or this is the continent, or the small continent here that got shifted to the right. And so that means that when I'm going, so in other words, most people think about this kink in the fault line going down from G down to B, but now we're going up. So we have to think of it from B. The shift is going to happen as we go up to G. One way you could think of it is that this top continent is moving to, got moved to the left, right? It doesn't have to be that you can think of it as the bottom continent moved to the right. You can think of it as the top continent moved to the left and the bottom continent stayed still, if you want to think about it that way. But that's where the shift is. It's not between these two strings. So I don't have any difference between the bottom string and the one right above it if I'm looking at that note. So I'm going to then go to here, and I'm going to say there's the octave. Let's count it out. So how do I count it out? There's a 5-note distance between the strings unless we cross the fault line, which we're not doing. I'm looking for a distance of 12. So it's going to be 5 if I go up, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold on a second. Que paso here. And I got backwards on my thought process here. Remember, when I go up, I'm usually going to call going up negative, because I usually think going down is the positive, because that's the normal direction. And then when I go to the right, I'm going more towards the positive and the left to the negative. So let's do that again. So we're going to say this is going to be -5. And then when I go to the right, it's going to go down. So -5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, let's do that from here. So if I'm on this A, I go up 1, that's going to be -5. -5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, boom, boom. So from here to here, same note. It's not even a different octave in this case, although I'm not getting into the octaves. I'm just going to say it's, we're looking for all of the A's. So that means if I go up one string, the octave is always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward. And unless I cross the fault line, which would happen if I started on this B string. So if I was on this string and I went up 5, then I would be here, it would be to here. So the general rule is, if I go up one string, the octave is going to be 5 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen if I started on the B string, in which case if I went up one string and crossed the fault line, then the octave would be 4 frets forward. It'd be tighter, because you can think of this tectonic plate shifted to the right, making the distance a shorter distance. Okay, so when I'm moving in the upward direction. All right, let's go back and try the next one. Let's go up. Wait, hold on. I want to do that. I didn't want to do that. Let's bring this over here. We're going to go up to this one. All right, so now I am crossing the fault line, because I'm starting on this string and I had to go up 2 strings, which will cross the fault line from B to G. All right, so now so if I do this, if I count this up, then I'm looking for a distance of 12, because I'm looking for the octave or same note. So it's going to be 5 distance between these strings, and then as I go up to the next string, it's going to be 10 10 going this way. And so that's going to be 10 because I'm crossing the fault line, and then 11, 12. So as I'm going up, it might be easier because usually I think of this as shifting to the right. I'm almost thinking when I'm going up to visualize in my mind that this continent shifted to the left, right? I think that's actually, for my mind, it's easier to kind of see. I'm going to start trying to look at it that way. So I'm like, okay, I went up here and I would go up this way, except for this whole continent right here shifted to the left, which means I have to go boom to that way. So I don't go the wrong way out here, right? So it's going to be 5, 10, 11, 12, or octave. So if I go up this way, it's going to be then 5. So it's going to be 5, and then out here, this whole continent shifted to the left, 10. So 5, 10, and then 11, 12, or octave. So, all right, so there's going to be that one. So that means that if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the octave is going to be 1, 2, 3 frets back. I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started on the G or the D string. So if I was on that A, if I started from there and I went up 2 strings, I would go to here. That's possibly the most familiar shape, but it's most familiar to get to the octave if you started from here down to there. That's what most people kind of learned first as where the octave is. But a lot of people don't see it going from here to here from the bottom. It's harder to see from that perspective. And certainly it's harder to see when you go from bottom to top and you're crossing the fault line, which we're doing here. So the general rule is if I go up 2 strings, then the octave is going to be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen if I start from either the B or the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the octave will be 3 frets back, because I can imagine that, again, this whole continent, let's imagine this continent shifted to the left. This whole continent shifted to the left, resulting in a longer distance, right? This is where I started at, and the place I'm going to, from my perspective, that's the one that moved. It shifted to the left. All right, so then, okay, let's look at it that way. I think that's actually a better way to visualize it. Let's go up another one. And so we're going to go up to here, and we're going to say, okay, now we're going to go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, because the fault line happens when I cross the B, because that continent moved. The continent we're on is the one that's stationary, even though it's smaller. Our continent's better. It's solid. The one up there floats around. So now we're going to say, okay, that means I'm looking for a 12 note away distance. It's going to be 5 this way, and then as I cross the fault line, because that continent shifted to the left, 5, 10, and then 15. There's only 12 notes in the musical alphabet, so I can always do, it's always going to be 15 minus 12, which is -3, 2, 1, and 0. Let's do it this way. We're going to say, okay, it's going to be 5, and then this continent shifted to the left, so it's going to be 10, and then 15, and then 15 minus 12 is going to be 15 minus 12 is going to be 3, -3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, from here to here, well, here to here. Okay, so that means that if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, then the octave will be 2 frets forward. Now, I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started above the fault line on, say, this A, and I went up 3 strings, then I would be out here. So the general rule would be, if I go up 3 strings, then the octave is going to be 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen 2 out of 3 times. I could go up 3 strings, which would be on the low B and E string, in which case, if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, because this tectonic plate shifted to the left, we're only going to go forward 2 frets. 2 frets forward. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. This one's going to be the longest distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back. All right, so we're going to say, let's go up 4 strings now. And so now we're going to say we're looking for a distance of 12 to get the octave or the perfect first. So I go up, that's going to be 5. And then because this continent shifted to the left, it's going to be 10 going this way, 15. I'm always going to bring 15 minus 12 back down to -3, plus another 5 is going to be 8. So -8, negative 9, 10, 11, and 12. So if I measure it from here, I'm going to say, all right, it's going to be from the bottom, negative 5, and then because this continent shifted that way, it's going to be negative 10, and then negative 15. 15 minus 12 is negative 3, plus another 5 is 8. 8, negative 9, 10, 11, and 12, or octave. So from here to the open A. Okay, so that means that if I go up 4 strings, then I will always cross the fault line, because I can't go up 4 strings without crossing the fault line unless I go around the top of the guitar. Therefore, the octave will always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back in that case. All right, and so let's go up to the top one. And obviously on the top one, I don't really even need to count it out because I know that the bottom string is the same as the top string, right? But I could count it out if I wanted to. I could just to practice, to go the full breadth of the guitar. And so I could say it's going to be a 12 note away distance, 5, and then going this way because this tectonic plate shifted to the left. I'm going to say 10 out here, and then 15. 15 minus 12 is going to be negative 3, plus another 5 is 8. 8 plus another 5 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then 13, you could take 13 minus 12 is 1. You could do it that way. Or 13 minus 1 is 12. 13 minus 12 would be 1. Or, right, and then octave. Right, okay. I think I have that. But in any case, I know that if I'm on the bottom string, the top string's the same. All right, let's do the next one. Let's run through this one. I'm getting tired here. Let's see if we can crank it out.